I'm throwing up all over my apartment right now.
That's really, really funny.
And I can pick the vomit up and incinerate it to make more money for myself. Look at that, I'm my own cash machine right now. When I was first asked to review Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor, my initial thought was, please tell me that's the actual name of this game. I was pleased to find out it was the actual name, however less pleased as I began to immerse myself in the gameplay. It's pretty frustrating at first. The vivid colors and bouncy soundtrack really draw you in with a sort of Adventure Time, Animal Crossing feel to them. The world itself appears to be someone's insane idea of where Tamagotchis go after they leave their portable keychain prisons. The main character is a janitor of this futuristic Moroccan Bazaar spaceport that you have the pleasure of walking around, but the seemingly pointless meandering and the wonky camera movements weren't really making me want to continue my little blue proletarian's adventure. I was almost ready to move on to something else when I remembered I did say I would do a review for this game, so I have to do the review for this game. So I did it. So I opened it back up and I started playing it again. I gave it one last chance, and I found that my next go at the game yielded some much better results. One of the other things that really annoyed me on the first run was my terrible luck at finding any trash to incinerate in order to gain more municipal credits, which are your in-game currency. We'll get to that later. So when the game starts off, you walk for a few feet and you're allowed to interact with many of the beings inhabiting this spaceport, and you're charged with keeping the spaceport tidy. One NPC in particular will explain to you a specific dynamic of the game, which is the dynamic of dungeon exploration. In order to enter a dungeon, you have to first ingest what are known as Eyes of Beb. Now, Beb is one of the 9 goddesses you can choose to worship at the beginning of the game before your adventure even begins. You have a little select screen there. You can choose which one. They've all got different names and different things that they're goddesses of. Now, eating that eye will put your janitor into a weird drug-induced state that throws the game into a first-person view. It looks a lot like you should be wearing old-school red and blue 3D glasses at this point. The game's intro is unreachable until you eat one of these eyes and enter the nearest dungeon. From there, we get an intro showing us Sunday Month created the game in association with Tiny Build, and then the opening title of the game appears. Oh, Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor. That's what I'm playing. Thank you. Keep walking, and there's a door that takes too long to open, like way too long to open. And when it's opening, there's this terrifying noise. Just, why? Why is that noise happening? Behind the door are idols of the 9 goddesses you can choose to worship, and placed at the end of this hallway is a floating skull. Approach the skull, and it lunges at you. Everything goes black, and you wake up in your shabby apartment. Not kidding, that's actually what it's called, your shabby apartment. So when you wake up, you have this weird skull floating and following you around, and it starts yelling at you every so often, and before you leave your apartment, you can check your pray station. Pray Station 9 to be exact. And your pray station is actually the area where you worship the goddess you selected. Now, you get paid there for collecting trash and burning it. You can pray to your goddess, and you can check your luck. My luck was usually somewhere in the negative hundreds. Cool. Leaving your apartment is where the real adventure begins. There are vendors and kiosks all over the spaceport, each of which have some new oddity that might come in handy later, or you might just want to burn it. The more you explore and talk to people, the more direction the game appears to have. Sure, you could just spend your days walking around picking up trash, or looking for trash but not finding any, as the case was for me in my first full day on the job, but wouldn't you rather have some purpose? I know I would, and I did, and I was so glad when I picked it back up and realized that I had more purpose. You have to make sure you keep your custodian from going hungry, getting sick, becoming way too tired, and apparently getting killed by something like this creepy-ass thing while you're in one of the dungeons. Cool. I'm gonna have nightmares for years. You also should do yourself a favor and remember where the colored arrows on the ground will take you. You don't get a mini-map in this game, folks, so pay attention. You can also find a to-do list in your menu screen that will offer a little more direction, as will the tips that appear during the loading screens. There are a lot of other things I want to talk about, but I think the real fun in this game just comes from discovering things for yourself. With the annoying camera movements and somewhat tedious nature of this game, I'm giving Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor 3 out of 5. It has some curb appeal with its vivid colors and its bouncy soundtrack, but I never felt compelled to rush back to it. It's definitely a game I will come back to, but I don't find myself thinking about it much when I'm not in front of my computer. Thanks a lot, guys. I'm Jason Frummer, and this has been my review of Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor.